In your tenant, you want to know what objects are in there. And it doesn't matter if those are users or groups or applications. You want to know what's in there so that you can keep track of what's going on.
There's a difference between an application and an agent. An agent is far more ephemeral. It does a job that requires some sort of permissions. It spins up, it does its thing, and it spins down.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the HIP Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Dubey, Principal Technologist Americas for Semperis. As organizations move to the cloud, it's all about creating applications. But how do you keep track of all of the applications? Entra includes application integration features for single-tenant applications, multi-tenant applications, and workload identities. Unfortunately, application governance is not part of the official Microsoft curriculum, Entra SKUs, or common IAM solutions. This presents a huge and potentially dangerous blind spot. My guests today are Sander Berkouwer and Raymond Comvalius. Sander works as an independent identity consultant in the Netherlands, where he helps organizations make the most out of Microsoft products, services, strategies, and technologies. Sander blogs on dirteam.com, and he's been awarded the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Award for the last 17 years. Raymond Comvalius is an IT specialist and senior technical consultant with more than 2 decades of experience delivering enterprise infrastructure, identity, and security improvements. His work centers on hybrid identity and Microsoft ecosystems, including Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access, and identity lifecycle automation with Microsoft Graph and scripting. Beyond consulting, he serves as a board member and co-hosts the IT Bros podcast, sharing news and insights for identity and security professionals. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, Sean.
And I personally have known these guys for a long time at MVP summits and various, as I like to describe it, various fluorescent lit ballrooms in random locations around the world for different conferences. So it's good to have you going on.
Yeah, the identity family meetups, not including funerals. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with telling us what's the importance of Entra application governance. Governance is not a particularly sexy topic. Why should governance and your governance plan be front and center important?
Well, I guess most of us started with Entra ID. At the time it was still called Azure AD, implementing Microsoft 365, Office 365. That was the first application and the application probably why we introduced this part. And after this, there came a lot of other applications. But as the door was wide open, everybody was invited to introduce new applications in Entra ID or Azure AD at the time. So we didn't keep track of that. We hardly knew what was going on, except for that when we introduced something new to work with Entra ID or Azure AD at the time, we had to introduce a new application. And as there was no administrator involved in the introduction of new applications, well, at a certain point in time, somebody started looking in Entra, found out that there was a section called Enterprise Applications or App Registration, and found out that there was something going on there and that was piling up some sort of objects that we had no idea what they were doing. And then, yeah, now we have technical debt, and we have to find out how to deal with this. In the meantime, by the way, Microsoft found out that this is kind of an issue because they got hacked. Kind of. By the introduction of new applications that they didn't keep track of. And now the rest of the world starts to recognize this feature as a risk with Microsoft as well, and they changed the defaults. So by now you have to ask somebody to introduce a new application if you're not the administrator of your tenant. And that administrator has to do something with that pile of applications that has grown over time.
Yeah, with the new default settings. Yeah.
Well, you sort of implied in your answer this, but let me ask it outright anyway, which is it, because it's not just in Entra applications that this happens, is that governance has always taken a backseat to operations.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
The need to get stuff done. Why is that?
So, Sean, you and I have talked to a lot of principal program managers at Microsoft, right?
Indeed.
And their job
Come and
is
gone.
to going, absolutely. But their job, if they do it right, is to look 2 years ahead and predict what the market needs and build that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a sort of gamble, but yeah, you can sort of work the dice a bit. So if you have a new product and you introduce it, there's a couple of things that would hinder adoption. For cloud services, it's really easy. You say people want to use that. If organizations don't use it when we introduce it or don't even look at it at the public preview, then perhaps you were wrong. Maybe you should go work somewhere else. Hence, you have so many new colleagues these days. But what we're seeing is that you can work these dice. So if you lower all the adoption barriers, it's easier for organizations to adopt. If you allow people in the organization to onboard applications or invite guests or, well, all the other viral features that we've seen over years in Entra ID and Azure ID and Windows Azure ID before that, that makes your idea as a principal program manager stand out. And then you can make a version 2, which is mostly multi-region or multi-language, and a version 3, which mainly comes with, here's that magic word again, governance.
Right. So what you're saying is lowering the barrier to adoption. And I know I've said this more than once on this podcast, but one of our strategic advisors here at Semperis is Chris Inglis, and he was the first national cyber director, among many other distinguished things. And one of his statements he likes to make is that one of the reasons we're in these issues with cybersecurity is that security has always taken a back seat to innovation and market adoption. And this sounds like a classic example of Chris's statement. So
yeah, that's one thing. And on the other hand, it's also true that I think that in your tenant, you want to know what objects are in there. And it doesn't matter if those are users or groups or applications or guest users. You want to know what's in there so that you can keep track of what's going on and that you can clean up stuff when you don't need it anymore.
Or agents or booking spaces or good fun.
Right. Well, and of course, what in so many aspects of cloud computing in general and Entra in particular, the parallels that we see with the history of Active Directory on premises. If you abstract it out, the challenges of an identity system on premises, there are a lot of parallels with identity system challenges in the cloud and governance. All you have to do is look at your typical on-prem Active Directory environment and applications to see that. You guys work in governance. I don't know if you know offhand. I mean, from the field, looking at on-prem, how do you see good governance on very many 80 forests?
Good.
I had to ask.
Good governance, yes. Superb governance, perfect governance, never.
No.
Yeah.
So
So it's
good-
it's basically good enough governance.
Right. In other words,
With
keeping
the-
track of, I mean, one of the best, if I had to really narrow things down, it would be getting rid of old identities, getting rid of old security principles. But you're saying, what do you consider to be, I know we're being vague about this, and this is entirely subjective. What do you consider to be good governance?
Well, I guess one of the things that not many of my customers meet is just to have an HSM backing up their ADCS infrastructure. And apparently that's a high bar.
Right.
Yeah, and I think these days we would consider that good governance for ADCS. For ADDS, it's a tier 0 implementations. It's privileged access workstations implemented, things like that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And again, not as deep a penetration as we might like to see. So,
But we've come so far, Sean.
well, we've had plenty of time to come that far.
Yeah, remember the Verona's days with Active Directory?
Yeah.
At least these days, everybody makes backups of their domain
Right.
controllers.
Right.
They don't
Right.
test restores, I know, but at least we've got there.
Hey, baby steps, right?
Yeah.
So we've well established application governance trails operations. So there's really two parts. If somebody is looking at trying to tackle application governance, there's two parts. So the first is setting up governance operations, period, for new applications, like access reviews, that sort of thing, which Sander, I believe you called turning off the faucet, right? And then there's going back and cleaning up what's out there already, which you refer to one drippingly as mopping the floor. What are some of the most important steps in this process? As if someone says, you're right, I really need to, I've been meaning to do this, I really need to get started on application governance. What are some of the most important first steps in this catch-up game you must take?
I think it comes down to the same pillars as Zero Trust. So it's assume breach. So you log the heck out of everything. That turns into knowing which privileges are used by applications and their newer cousins, agents, so that you can go towards lesser privileges for applications and agents. And it goes into verify explicitly, where you have Entra Workload ID that allows you to do conditional access for applications. Then, of course, we have all these logs, and it's tricky because some apps and agents use interactive sign-ins. Most of them use non-interactive sign-ins. It's on different tabs. You have to click a lot if you want to do this in the Entra Admin Center, I guess. But it's looking and going through the logs to see what can be optimized. And as you said, heck, that feels a lot like Active Directory.
So this is the mopping up the floor part, right? Using the logs to see exactly what's out there, to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Are there any tools to make this? This sounds like a very time-consuming, tedious, and difficult job. Are there any tools to make this easier?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do, and Raymond has another example, obviously, what we have now established with my largest customer is that we no longer want to see client secrets on applications, except when they're on-premises SCIM provisioning applications, because they can only work with the client secret these days. But we've eradicated the use of client secrets. And there's an application management policy in the Entra Admin Center that allows you to turn that off. So we created a written policy, then we switched on an application management policy, communications all over the place, and now we're getting rid of the client secrets once they expired. And those 20-year-old client secrets and things like that, we're going to have to figure something out for those too. But that's phase 2.
Right. Okay. So, so this is the mopping up process from the point of view. Well, you sort of stepped into this as well, is the turning off the faucet or faucets. And we know the most basic one, which is the admin consent, which was off by default, is no longer off by default, which is how when you first come into a tenant, you discover all these random applications that people have put out there. What knobs would you recommend that someone that's trying to wrap their head around getting started on this? What knobs in Entra would you recommend that they look at or investigate?
Us 3, of course, and I can give you more names. Oh, you mean those? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is of course also the Defender for Cloud Apps that will show you what applications are actually being used in your tenant and how they are being used, what privileges are being exploited, so to say.
Right. And what kind of a SKU does that require to do that?
I think that requires the E5 license. But,
The Microsoft 365 E5 license now includes app governance. Yeah.
So that's a big point right there, is that if you want to do application governance, you're talking about E5. Does that require E5 for the whole tenant? Probably.
I'm not sure about that. And even you have to ask yourself the question, is E5 enough? Because, for instance, for the workload ID, you require extra licenses that are not included with your E5.
And for Entra, an Entra Agent ID is its own license, and Entra ID governance. But you can roll that into the Entra suite and then add on the Intune suite. And do we have any more suites that we can? Yeah, we can.
So this is going back full circle and reinforcing about why governance is, if not an afterthought, comes later, because it's expensive.
Yeah, and we both know that the best security measures are the ones that we have in place from the get-go.
Right.
And that's rarely the case.
Right. Yeah, it's always easier to, and I've done this personally, it's always easier to take the extra effort to get these things in place when things are small, so that as you grow, they're already there, and that's just the way the world is. And again, this is shutting off the faucet early before the water is too deep, because the longer it takes to clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and your end users never like it when you take stuff away from them.
right.
Yep. Here we
If
are.
they never
Governance.
had it in the first place.
And now governance
they don't
breaks
know what they're
stuff.
going to miss.
Right. So, what we're looking, and what is the name? Is it in Entra? It's called application governance.
So if you want to drill deep into applications that are integrated with Entra, then the application governance feature of Defender for Cloud Apps will give you that information. There's also the app catalog in the same Defender for Cloud Apps product that you can use, which is kind of a registry, by lack of a better word, because agents use a registry now. But in the app catalog, you can actually see if a vendor is previously breached, if they have an ISO certification, things like that.
That's the vendor security or the risk analysis of the vendor.
Yeah, and the product, and that will give you a grade on a 1 to 10 scale.
Right. And is Defender for Cloud Apps comes with E5?
Yes, with Microsoft 365 E5. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, you mentioned this before, and we're talking about applications, and applications always require some kind of a non-human identity. I'm contractually required to say the words agentic AI in this conversation, but in particular, Microsoft's new identity type specifically for AI agents, which is called Entra Agent ID, which is not Entra ID. And there's probably an agent ID out there, and there's probably an ID agent out there, but we're talking about Entra Agent ID. So what's the purpose of Entra Agent ID? How does it differ from a managed service identity?
We ask ourselves the same question.
Yeah, but it's pretty straightforward. So there's a difference between an application and an agent. An agent is far more ephemeral. It does a job that requires some sort of permissions. It spins up, it does its thing, and it spins down. And that's different from an application. But as you said, and as Gartner points out, they're both non-human identities.
Mm-hmm.
So what Microsoft did is they looked at the 13 years history of Windows Azure AD, now Entra ID, and they said, how can we make enterprise applications and app registrations better and then fit them to the agent scenario? So I'm not that naive that I think that Microsoft is already or was already looking at ways to improve enterprise apps and app registrations. But they haven't released those features yet. And now, with agents, it makes sense to release those. So a pretty big distinction is that an agent can have a sponsor. Oh boy, you do not know how long I've been begging Microsoft to have something else for an app owner that is not an owner and does have system privileges. Just a sponsor, someone that I can go to, whack on the back of the head with my book and say, dude, what the heck?
So why is
instead
that
of
different
fix it
than an
yourself.
owner? Why is that different than an owner?
So an owner, for instance, can renew the certificates, can set new client secrets, and things like that for an app.
An owner has a technical role in the implementation.
And the
for
sponsor is a
governance,
business role.
Yeah, for governance, you only want to know who is responsible for this application. And you don't, well,
Okay.
obviously, you don't want the responsible person to also be the manager of the application.
Right, for separation of duties.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that the owner is the technical owner. I'm going to come up with an
Exactly.
acronym for that. And the sponsor is the business owner.
Yes. And as we both know, technical people like to talk to technical people, and business people fornicate with business people. So that way, it's all separated. Yeah.
It would sure be nice if they called it business sponsor, but oh well.
Yeah, I'm just lucky that they named it sponsor, so I don't have to type business sponsor all the time. But yeah, it's things like that.
Right,
And then
okay.
for the ephemeral part of an agent, what they said is, what we'll do is we'll make an agent ID blueprint. So you have a blueprint identity, and we will give the blueprint identity the permissions that the agent might, in all foreseeable scenarios, might use. And you can't do anything with the blueprint ID. It's just there, but you can't use it to sign in or whatever. It's just a definition.
Right.
And then on the blueprint ID, yeah, you can also have a blueprint app registration for agent, but let's stick to the blueprint ID. From the blueprint ID, based on the manifest, you can spin up an actual agent ID
Right.
to do the stuff that you want the agent to do. And if that is more fidgety, so it's less non-human identity, more human identity, you can have, next to that agent ID, you can have an agent user that does stuff. And both of them run for as long as you need them, and then they're gone.
Well, that's actually my next question, which is, since this is a governance conversation, is there anything in that blueprint or in that blueprint manifest that says how long they can exist so they don't just lay around forever, and then we have the same problem that we've had since the beginning of time?
And perhaps the even bigger question is, will developers use it?
Right.
That's the big question.
Yeah, because we can build it, but if developers don't use it, I guess we're circling back to Mr. Ballmer's developers.
Mhm.
Well, it's always been the challenge is having application developers, to sort of paraphrase our colleague Gil Kirkpatrick, to make security less of a speed bump for developers, so they actually use it instead of either ignoring it or doing it poorly. To make it easy to do it well, so that they can get their main job done of developing the application, because security is not the main job of the application, though it's very important. So what's the status of Entra Agent ID today? Is it ready to use? Is it still in public preview? Is it?
There is
going on?
there's a preview,
Yeah.
Okay.
and there's been memes that you have to be careful because it's a preview of a preview of a preview of a preview of a preview. Within brackets, preview.
Right.
Yeah, there's been a lot of noise around agents and Agent 365 at Ignite, and that was already a few months ago.
Right.
But there is no sign of this being GA yet.
But is it public or private preview?
No, it's public preview.
Public preview. Okay. Okay. So they're getting lots of feedback on the use of it. And in the meantime, what are developers using for these ephemeral? Because their progress is not stopping. Are they using managed service identities, or what are they using?
Well, that's all in the blueprint, the blueprint ID. So you can still choose, but the client secrets are out for agents, as far
Right.
as I've seen for now.
Which that's good.
So that's a good. That was actually the argument that I used for my larger customer to say, even Microsoft stops using them with agents.
Yeah.
We can do better, right?
Right.
And said, yeah, right.
Right. Exactly. Well, gentlemen, thank you. This has been very useful and very interesting. And it feels like, for the history of time, governance is going to be the catch up coming after the development, trying to keep things from getting worse and getting a handle on what's out there, understanding what's out there, and controlling it. So yeah, great. Thank you very much. And we'll see you guys in some fluorescent lit ballroom by some portable roll-up bar at sometime in the near future.
Somewhere in the world.
Somewhere in the
Yes.
world. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.